Hello and welcome to the Crafty Pint Podcast. I'm Will.
I'm James. Hello again, Will. We're now comfortably into our second century of podcast episodes, and once again separated from each other by a sick child. So I apologise for the ongoing illnesses that seem to be impacting me here. But having said that, at one stage yesterday when we were recording next week's podcast over here, we did think about getting in really early with our intro and saving a bit of time and giving our producer a bit of time to get ahead. Thank God we didn't, Will.
Yes, big news from our small estate this morning with Lion saying that they'll stop brewing at James Boag's from November. So there's close watchers of James Boag's will know that this has been, quite tumultuous over some years. Several years ago, in 2023, they said they'll close their visitor centre. The state government then offered them up a $1 million grant to not do that. So that visitor centre, they apparently spent $2.4 million on it. So some of Lion's own money as well, obviously, to reopen it late last year. That's staying open, but brewing is actually no longer going to happen for Lion in Tasmania. Instead, they'll move production of those beers to the other Lion sites across the country.
Yeah. Obviously, this is staying open. I guess continues a trend for Lion in recent years. A number of their sort of craft brands either cease to exist or they close the breweries down or they've sold them on. You've listed them within the article there. I guess this is arguably the biggest name within the existing sort of Lion beer structure to, I guess, fall foul of the current times and the cuts that are going on. But yeah, certainly there's been a pretty interested reaction across social since you put the story up. Probably about an hour or two before we actually sat down to have this chat.
Oh, well, I mean, the comments in the Mercury social media pages are much more intense, obviously. Northern Tasmanians are very proud people. I think importantly, Lion have said they'll repay that $1 million that they get. So it's not like they could sort of use it and then make 42 people in the brewery redundant. And I guess the other side of that sort of, I guess, raised my eyebrows when I was putting it together. Lion say, well, they're only using the site for a fifth of its production. So, it's production capacity. So we need to close it. But at the same time, a couple of years ago, they decided to brew the beers, the Boag's beers for the mainland market on the mainland. So it's like, well, they already sort of made the call to move production elsewhere, and now this is just kind of following through with it. So yeah, it's definitely a sad day.
Does that technically make Boag's brands now an imported brand on the mainland?
Well, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, Tasmania's classic, isn't it? Where you talk a lot about that north-south divide, and it's like all mainstream beer drinkers in the northern part of the state go to Boag's, and in the south it's Cascade. You do wonder if people will really want to move away from Boag's as a brand, as a mainstream brand, anyway.
Yeah. And I guess on the topic of ownership within beer, you also had a chat at the start of this week to Sabrina from the Sabrina Hughes from the Independent Brewers Association. They've decided that the Indies Awards will be coming back next year. It's on a bit of a hiatus. I guess it's had a fairly turbulent few years. I was involved in doing it a couple of years when it went online during COVID. Then it
had to have been turbulent to get you co-hosting it.
Exactly, I know they'd sort of they'd reached the bottom of the bucket, but yes, since then bringing it back in person, then stopping it again and having a couple of independent beer and brewery awards at ABERS. But yes, they're planning to bring it back, but in a sort of different format, which I think a lot of people will be pretty interested in, given there's so many other awards out there that are celebrating the liquid as opposed to the wider industry.
Yeah, I mean, they want to champion the people within the industry. That they often had this as part of the Indies. The last time it ran in 24, they sort of moved away from this before, but they had the Young Gun Award and sort of Lifetime Achievement and these and one for venues that supported independent beer as well. So they're sort of making that the focus now. I think, with the AIBA's being the size it is and the scale it is and such a big competition, and we're looking at hopefully at some point in the near future we'll have news about Jane Lewis and Justin Fox's beer championships as well. Definitely would say there's probably not enough space in Australia for 3 national beer awards sort of looking at quality in that way. So the IBA have decided to make it more about the people, and offer, I think, people in the industry the chance to shout about people that they love and who they think maybe go unacknowledged as playing a really pivotal role to the industry day in day out.
You can add to your 3 best media trophies on the trophy cabinet at home at some point, hopefully, Will.
Well, the thing is, if they bring back Young Gun, the cutoff year I think was always 35, so I've missed that boat. Unless they want to raise it to 40, but I was always suggesting it should be 30 maxed anyway. I reckon you're not quite I'm turning 35 later this year, and I certainly don't feel like a young gun.
Excellent stuff. Well, and I guess from the world of indie breweries generally to one specific independent brewery, not quite open yet, but part 3 of our Building a Brewery series, which I guess is conceived to give people some insight into what it's like, the process you go through, the costs, all that kind of stuff in building a brewery in the current climate, has gone live this week as well. I think you had another chat with Callum Fowler, the head brewer at the forthcoming Black Match Brewery.
Yeah, I caught up with Cal at Black Match. Yeah, he spoke to me from the back of a shipping container, unloading a one half of his pasteurizer, which he's just arrived from China, and he's found out the technician who was on the way over to service it hasn't managed to get the visa, so he'll be sort of putting that together over Zoom, I think, with an interpreter. And these are kind of the stories trying to get out with this building a brewery series. You know, the sort of day in day out what it looks like when you're, I guess, in the belly of the beast
Mhm.
when these things are coming together. They had an unusual addition. It's where they've managed to secure a still. Basically, they're leasing it off someone who felt it was actually who bought it and then it realized it was too large for their needs at the moment and are hoping to grow into it. So we're sort of planning to do spirits anyway, but that's becoming a part of their journey much sooner than they thought. But I mean, classically with brewery builds, everything else is happening much later. I Last time I spoke to Cal in early April, I think it was, he was hoping the production brewery would be up and running by May, which we've now passed. He's now hoping it will be July, and then the venue side of things is looking more like September, which creates a challenge in itself as well, because it's like, well, difficult to know how much beer to brew when the venues are way off, and sort of navigating that as well is a real challenge.
When you first spoke to them about doing this series, what were the expected dates back at the start?
Oh, well, they were hoping the beers would be ready in April, and then the tap room was always going to be later. So yeah, it gives you a sense of the delays there, and some of it's like there's council staff, and but some of them are so unavoidable. It's only Cal and his brewer working, sort of setting it all up. The brewer gets sick for 2 weeks with a respiratory condition, isn't coming in, obviously. When there's only two of you and someone can't work for 2 weeks, that blows timelines out pretty dramatically. They got one of the funniest stories was they got delayed because there was a drainage issue, and when the water services dug like right in there, they found that one of the drains was just completely full of spray cans because there's so much tagging going on in the area that so many cans have ended up down there over the years that they were causing this sort of massive blockage.
Perhaps they can try and identify the culprits and get them to come and do a free, a free bit of street art mural sort of on one side of the brewery for them to compensate for their lost time.
Yeah, or maybe say pick up your rubbish, please, or something like that. Tag here, but leave the area clean.
Yeah. Good thinking. Excellent. Well, yeah. So I guess there'll be at least maybe one or two more pieces to follow in that series before the brewery's live, and then who knows,
Hopefully two at most.
two at most. Yeah, we don't want to be dragging on until 2027. The poor buggers. But yeah, maybe we'll have an event there for our beer club when it opens. We have got a few new things lined up for members of our Crafty Cabal Beer Club since Pint of Origin finished. Festival can sort of take up a fair bit of your time. But yes, we've got a few things. We've got if you're a Victoria-based member, we've got an event with Molly Rose and Proud Mary next week where people get up close and personal when they create a coffee-laced collaborative brew. We've got double passes on offer for Other Side's Dark Days Festival in Perth in a few weeks' time. Brewmanity are offering some bonus beers to any Cabal members that go to the launch of their next new releases, a hoppy red ale, and the other one escapes me for now, but it'll be on the Crafty Cabal website. We've also got double passes to give away to the Hunter Valley Wine and Beer Festival in July, as well as Frothtown in Perth in August. Also, $10 discount on a Boilermaker Masterclass coming up between Starwood Whiskey and Three Ravens. And you can win some cases of Holgate's most recently released XVA X Marks the Spot as well. So if you're into that kind of thing, like, winning stuff and exclusive events and discounts or whatever, head to craftykabal.com and sign up and join our club and help us do what we do week in, week out of the Crafty Pint. Anyway, I guess self-promotion, which isn't something we do very well or very successfully, or very often, I should say. On to this week's main guest, Nemesia Dale-Cully, or better known to pretty much anyone that knows in the beer industry as Meesh. Who just wrapped up, well, I guess is now packing down Wildflower, but along with the rest of the team, Wildflower wrapped up that Marrickville brewery and blenderies operation in terms of at least the public-facing operation just early this week.
Yeah, it was great to have Meesh on. We spoke to her just before the final weekend. Pretty emotional ride, I think, the final weekend as well. I was watching her Instagram stories on Sunday and seeing some of the gifts and letters and things like that Wildflower customers were bringing in, and I think that's a big reason why we wanted to have Meesh on the show. She's really she came on to Wildflower several years ago and has sort of really created a beautiful venue space that I think matches the elegance of the beers. And before that, she was also working in the Adelaide beer scene at Shapeshifter and Pirate Life. So she's got a lot of experience in the front of house side of breweries. So we were really eager to pick her brains about that and how to make brewery spaces better for everyone and more inclusive and all that kind of thing. It's a really wonderful conversation.
Yeah, Mish is such someone who's very well respected in the industry, especially in South Australia and in Sydney, where she's spent most of her working career, and offers loads of really great insight on a lot of topics. From running a good venue, how to run an inclusive venue, how to be a good member of staff, but also how to be a good customer, a respectful customer, not just to the venue that you're in, but the people around you as well. So I think it's a really, really awesome chat coming up after the break.
Yes, and if you enjoy the conversation, make sure you subscribe, like, leave a comment, however you get the podcast. It helps other people discover the show. So enjoy. Cheers.
Cheers.
In 2026, Joe White Maltings is celebrating 100 years of roasting excellence. Trusted by the world's best brewers, Joe White transforms premium grains from the finest barley growing regions of Australia into world-class malt. With generations of knowledge and state-of-the-art infrastructure, Joe White provides brewers with the highest quality base malts they can rely on as the backbone of their beers. And when it comes to specialty malts, Joe White can help bring bold ideas to life with proven malts that unlock new flavours and possibilities. Joe White Maltings, proudly produced in Australia from farm to maltster and grain to glass. Consider Joe White Maltings, distributed by Bintani, for your next malt order. Visit bintani.com.au or talk to your Bintani rep today.
Meesh, welcome back to the Crafty Pint podcast.
Hey, thank you.
Tell us how it feels at the moment. You're just winding up things at Wildflower.
Yeah, crazy times. Obviously, as you can imagine, lots of feelings involved. It was never gonna not be an emotional process, I think. It's been like quite beautiful because it's quite indicative of the community that we have and that people feel so attached to the space and the product and all of those things. So I think, yeah, it's a roller coaster every day, but like I've only had 2 people almost cry this week so far. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, two almost cries. Does that make a whole cry?
Maybe. I don't know.
And just for context, like, how long have you been working at Wildflower and sort of overseeing all the events and venue side of things?
I was reflecting on this this morning as I was trying to madly think about what I was going to say today. And I started in March 2022. So that's 4.25 years, which
Mhm.
is like the best part of half a decade, which is kind of insane.
And I guess I guess if you've been reflecting already today, you probably had a thought about some of your highlights from that time. I mean, I guess even in that 4.25 years, there's been a huge amount of change with bringing in the cheese, bringing in mountain culture at one stage. There's been various expansions, many events. So, what's been the pick for you over that time?
Yeah, it's quite unbelievable the amount of change, like looking around the space today from the space that I initially walked into. But in that, I think the heart and soul and like the feel of it is so the same, which is really special. But that's not the question you asked me, so I'm going to answer the question that you asked me. Um, it it was like quite hard to pick, pick like there's so many things I can think of. Um,
Surely it was the event we did recently with Topher and Pete. What could be better than that?
It was very good. I didn't even get to like hear what was going on though because we were just full steam ahead in the venue. I mean, yeah, big highlight for me is genuinely like the expansion for myself when I started, like the learning and growing to like understand this our product or like our method of making beer a lot more deeply and getting kind of excited again
Mhm.
or like more excited and kind of falling deeper into the like history and the culture and the theater of beer service, if you will.
Mhm.
Um, we've had so many amazing events, like to have hosted Swansea Day twice now, incredible. To have been, this time last year, we were in Paso Robles in California, getting ready to pour some beers at Firestone Walker Invitational, which was quite crazy for me because I went to a masterclass with Matt Brindleson at Carwin Cellars in like 2018 or 19, where he was showing all of their mixed culture beer. And that was kind of a moment for me where it like clicked and I was like, oh, this is really interesting, which led me on a path to being here. So that was really nice and full circle. And I tried to tell him that story, but I'd had about 8 beers and I probably didn't do it much justice.
Surely he saw you walk in and went, "Meesh, have you been?"
He does now. He definitely. I think he did remember me this time. But anyway, that poor man meets so many people at that festival. It's like such a crazy thing.
And it must have been, I assume you knew Wildflower relatively well when you came in with the job, but to sort of like be inside it and sort of there with the barrels and working on the hospitality and everything, it must have really changed your appreciation of it, I guess, of I don't know, it feels like beer's slowest form and or the form of craft beer that's closest to sort of the slow beer movement and agriculture as well.
Absolutely, it was like it's one thing to enjoy the products from outside and because they're beautiful beers and they were delicious, but then to come in and see the process in action and kind of get deeper into that ethos is absolutely what I was talking about. I feel like my brain just kind of like exploded. And to be in this space, which I think I said in a West Dale Trail thing recently, like I actually took the job without ever physically having been in the cellar door. I was supposed to come over during the like interview process, but I got COVID. So I just got off the plane one day and got picked up by a strange man who I'd never met in a ute at the airport at 7 o'clock in the morning and like driven through the back of St. Peter's through these like really industrial and it was like raining and miserable. And I was like, oh my goodness, what have I done? And then we drove down there on Brompton Street and this like little idol just appeared. And I walked in and I was like, okay, all right, we're good.
Good stuff. And I guess stepping back a bit in time, what was it that first got you into craft beer in the first place?
There was like a number of things all around like one time, but one thing that I remember really clearly, and my dad will love this because he will listen to this podcast. So shout out. His dad gave me a can of Fire Life Double IPA in like very early on. Like I've always been a beer drinker. I'm a Cooper's girl. I drank Cooper's Sparkling like forever. Best beer. Love it. But Dad gave me this can of double IPA, and I was just like, "What the fuck is that?" Excuse my French, like in a good way. Like, I was like, holy shit. And around the same time, there was a venue on Semaphore Road in Adelaide, where I'm from, called Sweet Amber, which was kind of I think modeled sort of on like a Carwyn Cellars kind of vibe, like a nice little bottle shop, but also a bar with a couple of taps, like much smaller than Carwyn, because Carwyn obviously is like an incredible machine. Um, but that sort of mode of you could come and sit in and drink a couple of beers, or you could look at something in the fridge. And Dane and Rach, the owners, were like massively into beer and massively knowledgeable. So I sort of started going there and started drinking stuff, and I was just excited and wanted to ask questions and wanted to engage, and they were really willing to do that with me. And eventually I just sort of went there enough and was probably chatty and annoying enough that Dane kind of looked at me one night and said, I know you have a job, but like, do you want to come and like work here just like a couple of nights a week, like just for fun? And I was like, yeah, would like that.
Well, what were you doing before? What was your other job at the time?
My day job, my background is actually in public libraries. I worked in events and marketing, running children's programs from like 18 until kind of 24, 25. And I think I was in the peak of a bit of a like quarter life crisis, you know? Um, and that kind of, and was getting interested in beer. And then Dane offered me this job, and then I started bartending. And they had a wonderful manager there at the time, Sasha, who I love so dearly, and he taught me a lot of what I know. And I was like, this is really cool. Maybe I could do this, because I don't think we like teach young people that hospitality actually is a career. It's not something that you just do while you're at university. There are people who love doing it and have long and successful careers. And I think that is messaging that needs to come across more, because you actually don't need to go to university. You don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess you went from, running events for little kids to running events for big kids then.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the little kids were easier to deal with, but there was definitely more shenanigans in the library than I think I've ever seen in a licensed venue. But that is a story for a beer another time, and maybe not for this podcast.
And what was it about hospitality that drew you in so much? Obviously, you had the love for beer, but was there anything about the work that made you fall for it?
Definitely not the work. I can tell you that much for free. For me, I think upon reflection of like all the jobs I've done, I've been working since I was, which is now a scary amount of years. I love people. I love connection. I love community. And the library had that in a really beautiful way. And you got to have like really special connections with people, because, not just children and running children's programs, but we had a lot of like elderly people who would like it, and that ability to really make someone's day or make someone feel like and welcomed. It's the people aspect for me at the end of the day. Like, like also, I think the pace of hospitality. I like the fact that there's like there can be like 7 things flying at you, and you can just be like, because that's how my brain works. If you try and make me sit down at a computer, it's not going to work.
And when did the step to occur to move into working for breweries for the first time? Now, I know Sweet Amber sort of started a brewing side of the business as well, but to actually move into running brewery venues per se.
I did. Yeah, well, I was kind of on the lookout to get out of my library job. So I was moving around, finding bits and pieces of jobs. And then one day I strolled into Pirate Life in Hindmarsh and went on a brewery tour with a lovely Maddie O. And my friend who I was with at the time was just like, so do you guys need any staff? Because I'm ever reticent. I was like, I couldn't possibly, I just have to. And she just asked him, and he was like, yeah, like come back with your resume. Like Ed will be here on this day. And I went back, and they were just like, yeah, cool. So we were there for a while, and that was like another kind of explosion of learning for me. Like Ed in particular is just such an incredibly knowledgeable brilliant person. And they all just welcomed me with open arms and gave me so much information, and we just had the best time. And eventually, we opened Port Adelaide, the current like massive site, which you've probably been to.
Mm-hmm.
And Hindmarsh closed, which was quite sad. But as the nature of progression, as things go on. Um, and then that was kind of more of like a high volume environment, and I slot into the management team there and ran functions for a really long time, which was awful, and I hate functions. But taught me a lot working in like a high volume environment like that in a team of managers with like quite a big team of people. And a lot of fun, like really intense time of growth for the business, lots of incredible, like massive events. Like another Katie, who's still the head of hospitality at Pirate Life, who I worked with, was like an incredible mentor. She taught me so much. We had such a great time. And then I got headhunted, I suppose, if you want to use that term, by James McCall, Shapeshifter, back when they sort of were making some beer and had some presence in bottle shops but didn't have a bricks and mortar yet. So I jumped on board there and opened that venue in 2021. And then came here.
So it's a bit of a sort of, from, I guess, a small suburban cafe to, I guess, a very ambitious, fast-growing brewery, then into a massive sort of, expansion, I suppose, and then back to maybe something sort of in the middle. But I guess with Shapeshifter, were you brought in to kind of go, we've got this space, we think you will understand how it needs to look and how it needs to operate, and given sort of carte blanche to sort of work with them on how it was going to operate?
Very much, yeah. I think they were like, we need someone who has an understanding of like the hospitality space, but obviously trying to find someone who has a strong understanding of the hospitality space and a strong understanding of the beer space is like quite difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they approached me, and definitely they were just like, yep, we trust you, like go do it. And I, in hindsight, it's so funny. I think I did a really good job, and I'm really proud of what I achieved. And we definitely learned a lot of lessons along the way. But God, I had no idea what I was signing up for. Just absolutely none. Like, and the arrogance of youth, or the arrogance of like not having the knowledge. I don't know, but it was a crazy experience. Like um, in hindsight, I was updating my resume the other day and thinking about all of the things that go into building a venue from the ground up, and how like incredibly proud I am doing that, and trying to like learn a lot of lessons around like trying to instill best practice around cleaning the beer lines and like breaking down all the taps and the couplers and like doing all of those things when I was one person, not like a team of people, which it was probably ridiculous to take all of the kegs out of the keg room every week and scrub the walls. Like, probably wouldn't do that today while trying to do everything else. So there's some of that. There's like, I think there's definitely learnings from bigger, higher volume environments in terms of like, yeah, quality and like efficiencies that you can bring back to a smaller environment, but definitely need to be like conscious of what is actually physically.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have like, are there golden rules that you're like, we did this at Pirate Life, it's right everywhere, or is it very much you sort of start at a place and you're like, no, I've got to build the hospitality program around who this brewery is and what they make and who they're trying to be?
Yeah, I think like, I mean, the only golden rule is probably like ness for me anywhere, but every venue has specific like needs and requirements. I mean, obviously, beer line cleanliness and like glass cleanliness. Anyone who knows me or has the misfortune of following will know how I feel about that, how intensely I feel about that. So yeah, I mean, it's non-negotiable to be cleaning your beer lines at least fortnightly. Like that is just no two ways about it. And yeah, could like maintaining clean glassware, whatever that looks like. Not everyone is so fortunate to have a winter halter, which is still my absolute baby and favorite child. But whatever way you need to get to that outcome, it needs to happen. Like service is so important. There's you know truck driving down the street. It's quite loud. There's a number of like elements that go into experience, but I think we really need to drill down on paying attention to service and really nailing that and having attention to detail. Because if you think about it in terms of like a wine space or a cocktail space, there's so much thought and effort and consideration that goes into the vessel that the drink is in, the way that it's served, the temperature that it's served at, the story around it. And that's so normalized in that environment. So why not in a beer environment?
Mhm. And have you found it sort of coming back to your, I guess, current for, a couple more days, job at Wildflower? It's, I guess you've been part of the Inner West Ale Trail. There's a whole bunch of different hospitality offerings. What's it been like being part of that, and seeing, so many different approaches to serving customers, serving beer over the last few years?
Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, the beer scene is so thriving here, and I think the like community is really strong, which is really nice. It's like everyone's sharing things and helping each other and like drinking in each other's venues, which is really nice. One of the perks of the ale trail is everyone does do everything really differently, and you can kind of like go to different when we're not all competing because you're able to visit different places for different things. And there's some brilliant people out there like making brilliant beer and doing great events, and um, people are getting on the train of like different modes of service. I've taught a fair few people how, in theory, to pour a check cut. So like maybe someone will step into that space, and I won't have to make one ever again.
Yeah, I think that was on the agenda for the Theatre of Beer event originally, and it's like, no, it takes way too long. We'll just do all the other things, but not that one.
Yeah, unfortunately, a logistical nightmare for that volume of people. But I mean, it's a fun education point to like discuss with people as well. But
Mhm.
times you just one orders another five, and you just want to lay down on the floor and die.
Fair enough. And I guess having worked in a diverse range of places, big, small, a very, very large and different sort of products. Now that you're a few years into your hospitality career, if you could conceive your dream dream brewery venue, what would it be in terms of beer offering and the offering to the consumer?
Oh, this was a nice one to think about, actually. I thought it was a really great question. One of the really special venues that I can think about is the Weedy. Like, um, Harwood Cellars is like kind of another one in terms of that offer. Like, I think it would be something that was smaller. I'm definitely more suited to a more intimate environment where you can engage with people, I think, than like a higher volume turnover environment. I'm thinking more like a beer venue maybe than a brewery venue, because that gives you a bit of ability to move around. But maybe like a more streamlined. I think we need to get away from this mentality of like you have to be everything for everyone. You actually don't. You can like offer what you offer and stand in that. People can come and engage with it if they want to, and people that don't want to don't need to. And that kind of creates that community in a way. You have already a group of sort of like-minded people, which I think we have here quite strongly. Different interesting products, things that have a story, things that you can speak about, history and culture. And people are so fascinated by that. People love the story and the lore around things. I would want to do some like really beautiful food. Like so many excellent chefs that would just be a dream to work with. Because I think another one we've sort of lost is beer and food pairing. I feel like there was kind of a golden era where beer and food pairing was a thing, and there was like beer versus wine pairing dinners. And we seem to have drifted away from that. And I don't understand why, because like beer is a really diverse, interesting, wonderful beverage that can engage with food really nicely. I'd like to like play in that space. Yeah, and like I was thinking about events and stuff as well. Like having art in a space is really nice. I've got so many friends who are makers and creatives, and we've like always had these pie in the sky dreams of like having a multi-use space where someone can like run ceramics workshops and then you can like sell their ceramics, but then there's also sandwiches during the day and then drinks at night, and it's all very fanciful. It's something in that vein.
Good stuff. Well, I think at that stage we'll take a quick break and then we'll come back and I guess talk about the sort of wider hospitality scene, some of the other issues you've been concerned with over the years, and we'll take it from there.
If you run a tap room or bar, this one's for you. We're back with the team from GoTab, one of the world's leading brewery point of sale platforms, breaking down ways that you can maximize your hospitality revenue. Today, it's about driving footfall and loyalty, and I'm joined again by Australian GM Nathan Merriman. Nathan, hello.
Craig, how are you? Good to see you again.
Mate, it's always a pleasure. I love talking about this stuff with you. I think, when it comes to running like a hospitality venue, obviously getting people through the door and then coming back through that door is absolutely the name of the game. Why do you think, why is it so important to foster repeat customers?
Repeat customers can be built through multiple ways, right? So personal connections over the bar, talking about your favorite IPA, pure love of the brand and the concept, that you're there to experience as well. And then it can also be captured and built through, using technology in the tap room as well. We find that loyal customers, they're consistent foot traffic in off seasons, when you're going to be a bit quieter as well. They generally spend more and they're less price conscious when it comes to things like merch or limited releases and things like that, which is really exciting.
Yeah, and they do say it's actually, it's cheaper to keep a customer coming back than it is to acquire a new customer, I guess.
Yeah, it is. New customers, when you start to look at whether that's paid media, adverts, and just finding different ways to get in the door can be quite expensive. Once you have that customer, that first visit, if you can bring them back for that second, third, that cost drops dramatically while you're also seeing an increase in their spend, right? So loyal customers, they've got this ability to really become a recurring revenue stream throughout, which is just fantastic for a business.
GoTab has got a range of tools to help, I guess, entice and engage that, to drive that customer loyalty. Talk me through some of the most effective techniques.
Each brewery has their different ways of approaching loyalty. And I think at times it has different meanings as well, right? So, you could look at, is it a discount that you're offering? Is it a free product? Is it this buy one, get one free? Is it a coupon? Or are you looking at these, tiered memberships where people can either sign up for and pay, so you've got a monthly subscription? Or is it this, earn 1 point per dollar, you get to 100 points and, you get a free pot of beer or whatever that may be as well. So with GoTab, we've got the tools to essentially do a built-in loyalty where we can break customers down into different segments and send out offers to them, or they can have their free pot of beer automatically apply to their tab or to their order once they check out at the POS or through the QR code.
And you can get right down to the nitty gritty, can't you? I mean, if you could almost segment your audience by who's drinking IPAs. The next time you launch a limited release IPA, you can really target that segment alone.
Yeah, exactly, Craig. We're seeing, the IPA drinker. We're seeing how many times they've been and, they're coming back. But we're also now having the ability to send out specific content and marketing via email or SMS based on what they love, based on why they're coming in, what they're spending, what they're purchasing. And that's really powerful. You're no longer sending rosé to the IPA drinker. That birthday message becomes, we know you love IPAs. It's your birthday coming up. Here's a complimentary IPA, or we've got this special limited release we'd love to share.
Mate, I love it. Can you give me, I guess, any examples of breweries in Australia that you're working with that use these loyalty features really well. And I guess what's been the impact or the upside for them?
One of my favorites would be Bridge Road Brewers in Beechworth in Brunswick. And they've both got essentially like this really community feel run club. It's this great way to get the community together. So they're building brand ambassadors within the community as well. They go for a run. So they're doing, they're chatting, they're, exercising, and then they're coming into the brewery, into the tap room, and having a pot of beer afterwards with their friends. I love that. It's one of my favorite ones we're seeing. We're definitely starting to see a lot of breweries look at this tiered membership solution, and Apple Wallet Passes becoming quite popular in that space as well. Impact on the business. What we're seeing at GoTab across all of our venues that are using loyalty in multiple different ways is that 20% of those customers are coming back for a second time. So there's a real opportunity for people to use loyalty to essentially, bring that number up as well. And it's about finding what's the right program that works for your customer base as well.
Mate, I love it. This is fantastic. Guys, stay tuned for more segments with the GoTab team looking at ways to maximize your taproom revenue stream. In the meantime, be sure to reach out to Nathan. He knows his stuff and arrange a demo. You can email him at nathan@gotab.io. We'll pop it on the screen and in the show notes as well. Cheers, Nathan. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Craig. Cheers.
Welcome back. And Meesh, we already heard about your passion for clean glass.
If
and
you
clean
run
lines,
a tap room
but
or
anything
bar,
else,
this one's for you.
that you
We're
want to get
back
out
with
there
the team
about
from
that you think is
GoTab, one of the world's
absolutely
leading
unmissable in
brewery
hospo.
point of sale platforms.
I mean, I think when I was thinking about it, I was like, God, what are the golden rules? Like, it's kind of just like be kind to people and treat your beer well. Other if you're gonna drill it down to really the fundamental.
That would be a great tattoo.
Yeah, let me think. I do need another beer tattoo, don't I? Yeah, another one is just meeting people where they're at in terms of the person who like walks through the door and wants to talk to you about what's on tap. Like, yeah, you like don't need to make people feel inferior. We should be like bringing people in and speaking to them in a way that they can relate to. Which like because like obviously we're working with quite a unique product here, but I don't want people to feel excluded. I want people to feel included. And I think you should be doing that anyway.
And I mean, to give us an example, like say someone did walk into Wildflower and you were on the bar and they look up and just go, I've no idea what any of those things are. I'm surrounded by barrels. Like what would be the way that you'd have that conversation with them?
Well, that's an interaction that happens that happens so often. Look, where generally I'm like, cool, yeah. Like, have you tried any of the beers before? It's like a great place to start. People are like, no. You're like, okay, well, the thing that's unique about them is blah blah blah. And generally, we will spend some time with people explaining what is what because it is like quite an extensive menu. Letting people taste is like a really important one. I think you shouldn't have to commit to something without having had the opportunity to like have a little look because then people can surprise you. Often I'll be like, oh, this person based on what they've told me is not going to lie, and they're like, oh, that's really good. But just spending the time with someone to kind of unpack things a little bit and go, another one that I just use with people all the time, which is so simple, is like, what do you like to drink? Like, what do you usually like to drink? And then they tell you, and you can, if you know enough about the products that you're representing, you can align that in your head and show them some options.
And we're talking a lot about what to do on the hospo side, but do you feel like there is a sort of perfect customer that comes in?
Oh, the miracle perfect customer. No, I think like not to it's a beautiful positive question. I don't want to make it negative. I think like have an opinion. My biggest bugbear is people who are like, "Oh, what's your most popular?" And I'm like, "No, like what do you like? Well, what do you feel like?" It's so subjective to, and I always say that about beer, like it's like, wow, what day is it? How's the weather? Like, are you eating? Are you maybe a bit hungover? Have you just mowed the lawn? Like, there's a perfect beer for every occasion, but I need to know where you're at and how you feel in order to facilitate that for you. And people who are open and are curious is definitely like positive
Mhm.
traits, that are willing to listen and learn and like engage. Because something that often happens to me, obviously because I'm a woman behind the bar talking about beer, is that particularly men just are not interested in listening to what I'm trying to explain to them, or think that they know, and then they end up with a beer that they don't like, and I'm like, well, I tried to tell you. And I used to be a lot more evangelical, and then I just reached a point where I was like I think Topher and I think had a conversation one day, and he was just like, "They want to order the beer, just let them order it. Like, don't waste your energy." And I was like, you know what? Yeah. um,
And I guess the great win then is if someone comes in and just looks slightly terrified in front of the menu, and by the end they're walking out, with a couple of mixed six boxes of, funky fruity beers or what have you.
yeah, it's brilliant. Or people who just like get engaged. Like often we've had like a really like cute lately, like lots of young people, which makes me sound terribly old at the ripe old age of 32, but like young, like kind of like late teens, early 20s, and they're like so excited, and then they're coming back and they're like, "Oh, I tried this thing last time; it was really good, and I want to try this." And I was like, "Nature is healing. The kids are okay."
Oh, that's great to hear. And I guess sort of, looking over your whole career again, has your sort of approach to hospitality evolved, with knowledge or, with more time in the industry, or just with, the different places you've worked at?
Yeah, I think your approach definitely does change based on the space that you're in, and you need to adjust sometimes your like mode of service based on um, the way the venue is moving around you, which is quite a like skill, like having the ability to spend time with people and invest and have conversations and engage when the when service allows, and then having the ability to still give people like a great experience and get them what they want, but move them through a bit faster when things are like moving a bit faster, is something that like is I think a skill that comes with time.
Mhm.
I think over time you reach a point where I now set a very clear standard of behavior at the beginning of an interaction. And if you're willing to like come to the party and we're gonna there's maybe some wriggle room. But if you're not willing to meet that, that bar to entry, that standard of behavior, then I'm not willing to engage or to like have you in the space. And I think that comes with learning things the hard way. It comes with time, um, and backing yourself in, and knowing when and how you can speak up.
Mhm. And I guess on the topic of customers, I guess we sort of in these conversations we often sort of look at the venue staff, the venue owner, the brewery owner sort of side of things. But if you were to flip it on its head, in terms of what's the perfect customer, coming into a beer venue, because we do get a lot of consumers listening to the podcast. It's like, how can you be, oh, I'm assuming if they listen to the podcast they're just wonderful humans anyway, but not everyone goes into a pub or a bar or whatever necessarily with the best intention, or maybe they have a bit too much to drink or whatever. Like, what is the best way to be as a punter going into a bar or a brewery, to make sure you're not testing testing the limits of the people in the venue?
Like, remember that people in the service industry are people too. Another big one for me is like, remember that there's people around you. And I know it's easy to get like caught up if you're like in a group and you're all a bit, excited. But we work in a venue where there's often like children just at the next table. Maybe there's some like older people sitting over here. Maybe there's a person that like is going to be a bit like alarmed or like uncomfortable by you like yelling, because yelling, I don't know what it is about groups of men. Why are you always yelling? Like,
Asserting
uh,
dominance.
I'm like, I'm like, what is that? What is that? Um, yeah, so being aware of your surroundings, remembering that the people who are serving you are like people too, and that they're just doing their job and they're just trying to make sure that everyone is having a nice time and everyone's like safe and comfortable. Um, which is so that's all tied into like respect. Respecting so simple as respecting like the furniture, respecting not putting your used sins into your glass when they're done. Disgusting. Stop doing it. I'm getting very micro now, and that's not helpful. Um, yeah, I don't know. Is that a good
Well, I guess
answer?
respect, respect for
It
other patrons and
fundamentally,
respect for the staff. Yeah.
yeah, fundamentally, just like respect, like for all. It's a what does it say? One of our house rules is like this is an environment of mutual respect.
Mhm.
So we are all here operating under that mutual respect, and that is the standard of behaviour.
Yeah, and Mish, you have been outspoken about venues that don't do that. I think quite clearly. I mean, there's been some very high-profile articles about the biggest sort of hospitality venues in Sydney and operating around it. Do you think, you know, do you feel like there's been positive change since that, or is there still so much more to do? Like, where do you see that sort of safety for staff and safety for people working in hospitality as being at?
I mean, there's obviously so much more to do, and I think there always will be so much more to do, and that's kind of what keeps us going sometimes. But yeah, those articles by Bianca Robart, incredible. That was such a courageous, powerful thing to do as a like younger woman earlier in your like journal. Well, not like earlier in your that sounds okay. That was a really like powerful and courageous thing to do as a young woman in the journalism industry. Um, I think it really it has changed in that it's shifted the needle around public awareness and around conversations. And we can't affect any kind of change until we get the broader public to understand how uh, far reaching this stuff is and
Mhm.
how common it is and how much people are experiencing day to day. There's only so much you can do from a like organizational perspective. We need everyone to come to the party. We need like legislation. We need the government to actually be listening and taking action, which there's has been some great stuff in that space, like the Human Rights Commission doing excellent work. They have some excellent resources as well in terms of like positive duty legislation, which I think has been really impactful because that leaves venue owners, operators with nowhere to go. Like they have to be proactive in risk assessments. They have to have extensive training. They have to have the proper reporting like things in place because that is their duty and there's no two ways about it. So that's a really important one. But we also need guests, like the general public, um, everyone to understand that as well. So it's always going to be ongoing, but having the conversations and it not being this whisper chain, which I know is something that like James we've spoken about kind of
Mhm.
at length in terms of particularly stuff that happens in the beer industry, is it's this environment of like everyone knows, but no one's speaking publicly.
Mhm.
And that's like really challenging and feels really bad when you're like, anytime anything happens or anytime something's a bit like you see something a bit gross on someone's Instagram page, or someone says something at an event, or someone releases a beer with a really awful name. Like every time my Instagram messages are full of other like women, like non binary people in the industry who are like, what the hell? Like, this is disgusting. I can't believe we're still here, etc., etc. And then I can kind of count on one hand maybe men in the industry who've like even spoken on it or spoken on it publicly, particularly because plenty of people are kind of happy to engage privately but not willing to speak publicly because then I think that might um, reflect back on them. And there's an element of like boys club and boys protect boys, and businesses protect like predators, and it can feel really disheartening.
Hmm. And what do you think? Coming back to, I guess, focusing on the beer industry, whether it is at events or in venues or just generally, behaviours in the industry. What would you love to see most to sort of the next steps to sort of, I guess, create a more inclusive and a safer space?
I think we like representation could go a long way. I'd just like to see more diverse people in rooms. I think you can be the frog in the boiling water, like a little bit, whereby you're in these environments so much that you don't see how like dominant masculine, like dominated they are. Or I mean, I had a brilliant one where I was at an event and I'd invited a friend who is in the distilling industry, which like also massively male dominated. But she came in and she was like, "Oh my goodness!" Like she was like, "There's not like," and I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, this is just what it's like." So I mean, I don't know how we fix that, but that would go a long way to kind of making some change. One that I just harp on about time and time again is the like house rules document. I know I've mentioned it before, but um, I think that's a tool again for like setting the standard, setting the tone, and also empowering the team to feel safe, to know that that's the expectation, and if someone doesn't meet that expectation, something will be done. So you also need management being proactive in responding to things that happen. And maybe that's like awareness. Um, and now I've lost any type of point and I'm just saying words.
So, but I mean, in terms of when you have sort of, spoken out or, maybe post something about it or, I guess, raised the issue, what sort of reactions have you had? Has it generally been supportive or have you found a backlash sometimes from people who just don't want to hear this stuff or just, what's it been like?
Or
Oh,
silence.
definitely. Oh, silence. Yeah, silence. The sound of silence. I was going to sing, and then I realized I do not want to be recorded singing on this podcast because that's not good for anyone.
Well, that would have been the
Um,
reel that we'd taken out for it and just put that
yeah,
out, the
exactly.
outtake,
Clip that up.
from the show.
Put it on Instagram. Um, yeah, look, there's definitely people who are like, "Oh, I have to watch what I say around you." Um, I know that there's people in the industry that like wouldn't hire me because of my inability to shut my mouth about injustices.
Mhm.
I mean, I had someone recently tell me that I'm formidable, which I think actually was intended as a compliment, and I do kind of take it that way. But it's not always positive. And like one thing I'm thinking of is like a very like a beautiful person who is like quite close to the business here when all of the stuff was unfolding. Like all that stuff was in the media and we were talking about the conversations a lot and I was posting a lot and talking about it a lot. He kind of sat me down and was like, "How are you doing? Like, are you okay?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm like fine. Didn't happen to at it. I hadn't stopped to think how heavy it was weighing on me. So even that bit of like empathy and recognition of um, he can see where my outspokenness is like coming from. And that was, I don't know, I thought that was like really powerful
Mhm.
um, to like show people like a little bit of care because it does take a lot of like emotional weight out of you.
Mhm. And I guess sort of looking more widely at the industry you've been part of, for a number of years now, are there other, sort of issues or sort of bugbears you look at and go, why does this still happen? Why is this going on?
Oh, yeah, I mean, how long have you got? No, no, I think there's like a lot of um, I've seen some positive change, coming back to representation, like thinking on like what the first year I did the Sydney Royal, I think that must have been 2023. Ian Kingham was the head judge. They committed to 50-50 like gender split at judging tables, which is huge. Like that is awesome. And we need to be pushing more of that and providing people opportunities and like opening doors and bringing people in rather than, uh, shutting people out or pulling the ladder up behind us, which is where, like it is really important to have organizations like Pink Boots doing particularly that pathway to judging program. That's like incredibly valuable. And all that they do in that space. My other bugbears. I mean,
I'm not saying you're a person that's, this defines your personality by just, having a list of
A hatred
bugbears.
of dirty glasses.
yeah, dirty glasses. Get rid of that. Thinking about creating, like my bugbear is I do have a thing about like very, like I'm trying to choose the right language to use. I think like making spaces welcoming, and that can be a number of things. But considering furniture, considering bathroom situation, considering, there's lots of like little things you can do to like make the space a bit more engaging for someone that isn't maybe the typical customer that we're considering.
It was interesting. I was chatting to the guys from Goons Brewing up on the Central Coast this week, and they were saying that they'd been brewing for a few years, but when they moved into their brew pub tap room earlier in the year, they deliberately put the tanks sort of behind the bar, but only they can be seen if you want to see them. But they didn't want the tanks to be too much of a centerpiece because they felt it was very masculine, and they didn't want to put off people that came in thinking, oh, this is a bit intimidating or this is too not for me. And so there's enough of them on show that you can see them, so you're in a
Yeah.
brewery, but it's not like, if otherwise it feels like just a nice, comfortable, welcoming venue.
Yeah, it's not this big like formidable presence of that's beautiful. That's beautiful like thought. But yeah, bit of color, like a seat with a back, maybe a plant. I don't know.
Well, I mean, before we let you go, what's next for Mish?
Oh, that's the question on everyone's lips.
Including your own.
including my own. I don't really have a good answer as to what's next. We've got obviously a lot to do here in terms of packing everything down and bumping everything out. So we'll be here for a couple of weeks doing some bits and bobs, and then I'm gonna head home to Adelaide for a couple of weeks to drink Cooper's Dark Ale outside the Exeter and like see my friends, have a nice time.
The world of library functions isn't going to be welcoming you back anytime soon.
Someone was sending me library jobs the other day. I was like, oh, I don't know if I could get back in at this stage. No, I very much would like to stay in the beer industry. Just, I guess, have to wait my turn to find the right opportunity. But I'll be getting around pretty much trying to offer my services to anyone who wants to take them in coming months.
You've got your perfect resume now. Just say, hey, watch this episode of the Crafty Fight podcast. You'll know whether you want me or not.
But yeah, open to opportunities is the moral of the story.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure you'll find something wonderful, and wherever you end up, they'll have found something wonderful as well. So, best of luck with whatever comes next.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Not at all.
Hi everyone, it's Matt from Pint of Origin Festival, where the world of beer comes to Melbourne.
Kia ora, I'm Ryan. I'm the Festival Director of Beervana, the world's weirdest, wildest and greatest beer festival, according to Dylan and myself.
We're here on a mission to find Australia's biggest beer fan, and we reckon that Pint of Origin is the best place to start.
One lucky winner will be crowned Australia's biggest beer fan and win an epic Beervana prize, including return flights to Wellington, 4 nights accommodation, festival passes, brewery experiences, spending money, merch, and more for you and a +1.
Plus, everyone who enters will get access to 2-for-1 Bring a Mate tickets for Beervana when they go on sale in June. To nominate yourself or a friend as Australia's biggest beer fan, head to beervana.co.nz.
Make sure you get down to the Catfish here in Fitzroy from the 15th for Pint of Origin, where you can try a whole bunch of incredible New Zealand beer. That's a bit of a taster before you come to New Zealand for Beervana. Cheers.
Beer, bringing the world closer together.
The Crafty Pint podcast is produced and edited by Matt Hoffman. You can get all your beer-related news and reviews on the Crafty Pint website, craftypint.com, and can stay up to date on future podcast episodes via our socials.
We wouldn't be able to produce the podcast or the website, events or festivals we run without the support of the beer industry, whether that's suppliers, bars, breweries or bottle shops. If you'd like to support the show or partner with the Crafty Pint in other ways, please reach out to Craig via the details in the show notes.
And if you're a beer lover who'd like to support what we do, you can join our exclusive club for beer lovers, the Crafty Cabal. Visit craftykabal.com for more.
And until next time, drink good beer.